Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl Lee, where sports, culture, and community intersect. Join Carl and frequent co-host Hollis Lewis as they dive into engaging conversations with guests from all walks of life. Let's Talk is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. Let the conversation begin on Let's Talk.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Talk with Carl Lee and my co-host Hollis Lewis. Little background on him if you haven't heard it before. He's West Virginia Project Director of Crisis Intervention and Community Programs. Let's Talk is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. You can visit Frank Walker at FrankWalkerLaw.com for more information. You can catch Let's Talk every Sunday at 1 p.m., Thursday at 7 p.m. on 580 WCHS. If you want to watch any of the episodes, you can visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. You can also follow me on Facebook with Let's Talk with Carl Lee for any of the updates. All right, so Hollis, this is the homecoming, and what I'm going to call alumni weekend is usually what they call it in the pros, where they bring all the guys back, and we'll talk a little bit about that after we get through the piece of homecoming.
Yeah, so we got Marshall's homecoming this Saturday, West Virginia State University's next week, and I think UC's was last week. So just when we talk about homecoming, from a collegiate perspective, it's a time in which, alumni comes back, it's celebration, it's parties, obviously, the game is the centerpiece of that. So from you being like a player, a coach, and maybe we'll go back, revisit the coaching part of that. What was your thoughts around just like coaching around that sort of energy? Because again, particularly like when you're talking about like HBCU football, that's like the biggest game of the season.
Yes, regardless if there's a bigger game. Yeah. Homecoming is the game that you want to win no matter what.
No matter what, yeah.
And in my coaching tenure at the state, And the interesting thing about State, and as you know, and most people know, State's homecoming has had a history of being just like one of the things that you didn't want to miss. I can remember being at Marshall and driving back home to come to State's homecoming, just because of the situation and the atmosphere that you were looking for. You didn't have that in Huntington. This was going to be a ton of folks coming back, and you were going to have all kinds of parties and after parties and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And if you were interested in that, you were coming back. So to me, I feel like homecoming is and especially at HBCU. It is a historical moment every single year.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it represents something. It represents and I think everybody gets a little bit something out of it. Players get that unity with other players. They get to kind of hang out with the guys. I think the campus folks who didn't necessarily participate in sports, they get to hang out with their friends, and it's just one great kind of thing. And I don't know if regular homecomings are as big or as maybe bigger just because of the number of students, but I don't know if they're the same as they are at an HBCU.
And I think culturally it's sort of tied and has a cultural significance. I remember, like, I went to law school at Southern University. So Southern University is the only HBCU system in the United States where we have multiple colleges in multiple cities. We have our primary campus is in Baton Rouge. We have a campus in New Orleans, and we have a campus in Shreveport. And I think there's maybe one somewhere else. But I mean, to just see 50,000, 75,000 people on campus. I mean, that's been there for days. It's cooking the crawfish. There's partying. Going to the game, and those are situations in which you're not staying. Like that's a situation where you go to the bathroom, get your food. During the second quarter, because at the halftime you stand for the band.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things that I think that are unique to college football, unique to even high school football to some iteration. And I know Marshall's homecoming this weekend, which I plan to attend. And I think that's the culture of HBCU homecoming is sort of migrated through just other colleges, and I think it's a more of an emphasis, and in addition, for the school itself, it's a fundraising opportunity, right? Because they have to dish a lot of money out to put on the various programs, but you have a lot of alumni come back. You can honor those alumni to give donations and so forth and so on.
And I think again, as the head coach, while it is a great time on campus, and it's a meaningful time on campus. I can remember at State, telling everybody, no, we
go stay in a hotel, right?
We used to go, and the reason why was because some of the guys snuck out.
Yeah.
And come on, I was going to be at homecoming. I was going to go and check. I had to go check on the guys, right?
Yeah.
So I see a bunch of guys that are at homecoming.
Yeah.
So that made me, okay, we can't stay on campus during homecoming.
But
I, however bad that sounds, and I used to say this all the time, we are homecoming. We don't celebrate it. We are homecoming. We have to play the game.
Yeah.
We have to go out and try to win the game. We don't have anything into the celebration. We are homecoming. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the reality of it. And even looking back at it now, I still see it that way. Like the players don't get the opportunity until after the game, whatever happens after the game, but they're going to miss most everything all week because they're going to be practice and they're going to be in bed on time because it's bed check. So that's how I see it as a coach, as a head coach. Now, as a player playing at Marshall, yeah, there was some thinking like, how could I get in and could I get out and get back in without getting caught? Mm. And then, as bad as I had to deal with Sonny Randall, and so where I get all my punishment comes from what he did. So I kind of had to give up homecoming on the night of and just have to celebrate it after the game.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I think the primary thing you will want the players to do is just have that interaction with the alumni, right? You want them to get to know alumni, whether, you have a planned dinner or something like that. I think, to me, if I'm a coach, I'm thinking of it more towards that way. Like, let's get to know alumni. And to your point, you are correct. I mean, we are the homecoming, the actual football team. So I think the primary thing should be the game and, winning that, and then we can celebrate after that.
Yeah, and I think one of the really simple things that we could do, to your point that you just made, is for the alumni people who are coming back in, there could be like a dinner.
Yeah.
That they could come to, they could come to, and players could sit around and eat, and then they can maybe, because there's going to be players that are going to be probably from their hometown.
Yes. Working within their field.
Absolutely.
Different things of that
nature. So you could connect. I think connecting those people with those kinds of, the players with those kind of people, those kind of alumni, I think to me, that's something that I think we should take advantage of at homecoming that we don't.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the opportunity. We talk about wanting the alumni, and when you talk alumni, sometimes that's a dual word because you're also talking about the people who have money who support the school.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yes, so connecting players and those people to have some time to be able to sit around and chit chat over dinner, whatever, and I think that would be a great opportunity for the players to network with people who've been successful. And as we know, when you're watching that game, you're watching, somebody's watching you play, and they're like, man, he's a great player, and they may never get a chance to talk to you.
Yeah,
but now in this situation, that would be something that could be possible.
Definitely, and I think it should be an opportunity to connect with those Hall of Famers as well, because every homecoming, at least in state, we do inductions to the Sports Hall of Fame, so it should be like connections of all that. So I think maybe for players and coaches, that maybe is the primary focus of the homecoming besides the actual game. And I'm curious,
I don't remember this, but I don't know if the players are even part of the induction of.
Nah, because generally like the formal inductions go on, at least at state, it's on Saturday morning. Right. So obviously you get ready for the game. Right. And then at halftime they'll introduce you to the crowd. So
see, and I think there should be a place for that connection as well. To me as a player, you as the inductee into the Hall of Fame, or even a sponsor or booster or whatever, I'd like to be able to hear from you. I'd like to connect with you, because you might end up like saying, oh, he's a nice young man, or he ain't a nice young man. Yeah. But I would love to be at the Hall of Fame. I'd love to see,
and we're planning to go this year, because I know Coach Monroe's getting inducted, so I'll be there.
Yes. So again, you want to see that person go. Yeah. It's important for them to see you there as support.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a great idea, because I think for not just for state but for any school, you could do like a Sports Hall of Fame dinner where you actually take all the athletes, anybody who's going into the Hall of Fame or who's already in there, you get a table, all the athletes can sit around these various Hall of Famers and business people and different things of the like, and you can actually have that dinner or breakfast or lunch or whatever it may be. That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, that's something that I think ties current players to former players that you maybe even heard of or maybe even had never heard of. Mm-hmm. But, State has had some great players, some great coaches that these players may never get an opportunity to know.
Yeah.
But if you put them in a situation to get to know them, I think that inspires them, I think, to want to be, this is my goal. I want to be in the Hall of Fame. I want to be one day sitting in front of these players, chit-chatting with them.
Yeah, and I think it connects those generations of players, because you're obviously connected through your time spent at this university playing this particular sport. So I think that's an excellent idea, and I think maybe that's a really good idea.
Well, and all right, so if we go to homecoming and we look at the public's or the campus's concept of what homecoming is, do you think that they have, is the game the major piece of it, or is it the activities during the week for them? I know for the players, we see it as the game. As a coach, I see it as the game. I don't even care as a coach. I don't even care. I don't even care what y'all doing this week. I'm worried about my guys getting caught up in that.
Yeah, I think the game is definitely a major part, but I think the major part of it, you want those alumni to come back. You want, as a university, and I'm speaking specifically as a university, you want those alumni to come back, see what's new on campus, see what's been maintained, and hopefully donate, time, money, and resources back to the campus. So I think that's probably the major part, and with the, obviously the game being the centerpiece, but it's not, it's not the only part of it.
Are you when you say alumni, are we separating or including as one former players?
Yeah, former players.
Or is that a group too? Because a lot of times former players like to come because of buddies are coming and all that.
Sure. We're saying former players. We're talking about graduates. Okay. And to your point, even those business people who didn't necessarily maybe attend the university but have interest in the university.
Yes. That have hired people from the school.
Yeah, hired people from the school. Different. So like I said, it's an opportunity to get all those folks together. Like I said, it's a major network. And you mentioned something when we talked about this, which I didn't know about, is sort of a similar concept in the league, Alumni Weekend. So tell us about that.
Alumni Weekend is an opportunity for all of the alumni that have played whether 1 year or 30 years at on the team. They're able to come back. They get an opportunity to go down on the field at halftime, be introduced. And again, a lot of times what I don't know if it's different, but it feels different when you leave the Vikings or you leave a team. You know, somebody's going to this town, this state, that state, and cross country, all that kind of stuff, and you really don't get a chance to talk to them that much. But yet, the NFL connection, I think, is bigger sometimes than the college one or high school, because I mean,
you select group.
It's a small select group. And
so let me ask you that, like, as far as those, when we talk about NFL Alumni Weekend, as far as the individuals who are coming back to engage in that celebration, are we talking about players? Because, you know, NFL's a lot of movement, right? Right. Which is starting to look like college now, right? Right. So who's coming back? Are we talking about those guys who play 5-10? Are we talking about a guy maybe you got drafted there, but you only played 2 or 3 seasons and you were off to the next team? How does that work?
I don't know of many players who have played at other teams that played with the Vikings that go anywhere else. Like I've gotten mail from the Saints for their alumni weekend. Nah, I can't see myself. I can't see myself going. Some of the guys that I met that were good friends when I was there, you know, I appreciate that, but on the other side of it, like, it's
nothing. But you played like 12 years for the Saints, right?
With the Vikings.
With the Vikings,
yeah. So like I'm connected to a lot more guys with the Vikings than I am. And if I go to New Orleans and maybe only one guy that I played with is even there, I'm lost.
So mainly, is it a case where most guys are going to participate in the alumni weekend that play whatever team they play for the longest?
I think so. And I got a buddy, Vincey Glenn, who is dying to get on. Okay. He and I became friends while he played with the Vikings, and I think he may go to. I think he played for two or three maybe other teams, but he enjoys coming to ours only though if defensive backs that he knew got to know, because he was a defensive back, he would want to come back if we're coming back. If he doesn't think we're coming, then he's not coming. Yeah.
And I guess that could change, like, even if you were only a team for maybe 2 or 3 seasons, but maybe you won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Or maybe you had your best seasons there. So maybe that can change as well. That could change. So far as the celebration piece, you know, you're on the field, you kind of doing stuff with the team. What is the weekend look like when you guys are hanging out there? You don't have to get in too much detail.
Well, basically it's you're down on the field. They announce you.
Well, I mean, outside of that, like, are you guys hanging out? Is it parties?
Oh yeah. Everybody. There's not really a party, but everybody's staying in the same hotel. Everybody's eating at the same place. You know, the Vikings are getting you to where you got to go. Then now, when they drop you back off at the hotel, then that's all the players trying to come up with. Okay, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? For the most part, it's groups of people who played together, and there are younger players that come to Alumni Weekend that don't interact with us.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because they're younger, and they don't really know us. You know, and unfortunately, at least I think with the Vikings, and I'm sure this is probably pretty much everywhere, I don't think that there's that. I don't know if the younger players are overly interested in, like, getting, like, hey, my name is this, my name's Carl Lee. Oh, okay, cool. And I think that's enough for them. I don't think it is like, okay, let's go sit down and have dinner, or, you know, sit and talk. I don't think that's their interest. I think they want to go out with their buddies and be comfortable. Yeah.
And the thing that I seen, because I went to the Vikings facility this summer, and the thing that I seen was, again, I don't know of how they do it anywhere else, but it seemed like you guys really celebrate that past and really celebrate those past teams. And I mean, you seen just, you know, image after image of older players, and they had the list of the teams that started this season, that team, pictures everywhere. So it seems like you guys do a pretty good job of, like, trying to maintain that continuity among players.
I would say that probably everybody does it to some degree.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings have really started to push that. even more than it used to be. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we'll pick up the conversation from there.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. Comment on episodes, ask Carl and Hollis questions, or suggest topics at our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation.
Let's face it, bad things happen to good people. Seriously injured in a car accident, trucking accident, or even wrongfully arrested. Life happens, and when it happens to you, you will need sound legal advice and aggressive representation. That's when you call attorney Frank Walker at 304-413-0179. That's 304-413-0179. Lock it in your phone, text it to a friend. 304-413-0179. Or visit online at attorneyfrankwalker.com.
Find previous episodes of Let's Talk at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. This is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and
again, homecomings, it's a big time to celebrate. But let's talk about a little something else. Now, when we talk about the Heisman, just before we get into it, what does the Heisman mean to Carl Lee?
To me, it represents someone who is the best player in college football.
Okay, because as far as the contender, at least the early contenders, we have the quarterback from Alabama. You got the quarterback from Miami Hurricanes. I think before we know it, Arch Manning, quarterback from Texas, he'll find his way into that conversation if he keeps starting and keep playing how he does. But you also have a guy like Travis Hunter. Now, normally what's been happening, at least the last probably, I say, decade or so, maybe even better, what appears to happen is that generally you're just taking the best player on the best team, not necessarily considering who's the actual best player. I mean, I think even when Randy Moss, when he was, I think he got third or fourth the year Charleston Woodson running, it was people were amazed that he even made like the top. Even though Marshall was very good, It was a smaller school at the time, even smaller than what it is now. But for him to be on there was just an accomplishment for him to be in the consideration, although, he's probably the best player in college football. So when I look at a guy like Travis Hunter, who's playing 130 snaps a game, who's getting 100-plus yards receiving a game, who's scoring touchdowns, who's locking down, who's tackling, who's breaking up passes, I just don't see how he's not the best player in college football. And I don't see how he's not going to get, at least from some early pundits, quote unquote, they're pretty much saying, well, they're kind of just casting him off already.
Okay, so let me ask this question, okay? Tell me what your thoughts were around Randy Moss and his opportunity to win that coveted prize.
I mean, to me, he was the best player in college football. But I'll say this: for that year, Charles Woodson won it, who was a safety, and he also played receiver. Michigan, I don't know if they won a national championship, but they won the Rose Bowl, kind of when the bowls were still, meaning something. So he played for a big-time program. He was playing defense. He was playing offense, although not a full-time offensive player.
Right.
He was subbing. He was coming in. He was coming out. He wasn't playing. He wasn't doing what Travis Hunter's doing. So I think – in my mind, I could justify him winning. I mean, you also had Peyton Manning, who was, a very, very, Hall of Fame quarterback. So in my mind, I could justify Charles Woodson winning it that year just because the level, the program that he's playing with, and he's playing offense and defense, and he's doing very well in both.
Okay, so
although I thought Randy Moss was the best player.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so then the question becomes, is the Heisman for the best player, or do you got to do some other things in order for you to – because normally, in most cases, the great quarterback is going to get the Heisman.
Yeah, which
okay. He might have a great receiver, might even have a great lineman. He
might just be a good player on the best team.
On the best team, right. Yeah. So, for me, I don't know how you don't see Randy Moss as the number one player in college football. I don't care where he played, right? He could have played at State. You know what I'm saying? He's the best player, period. And he shows it. He showed it in the league.
Yeah.
And
but
to me,
you can't look at the league though. We can't take that in there.
I see. Here's my thing.
You can't take that into.
Here's what I think. Okay, so if you're a Heisman Trophy winner, so you're the best player in college football, you got to be something in the pros.
No, you don't. That's not considered.
Well, I know that's not considered.
Yeah,
that's not considered. But in hindsight,
not really. You just may be a good college football player, and that's where it stands.
See, I can't. It's hard for me to even, and I totally understand it. It's what you did, what you did for me in the moment, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's about being the greatest,
totally
the best college football player, not the best.
I understand
because you can't, like a guy like Tim Tebow. He's never going to be like a great NFL quarterback just because of a variety of issues. But a college quarterback, he's one of the greatest of all time, and that's what you got to count. And just to clarify, as far as the Heisman odds, as I'm seeing it now, you got Jalen Milroy, Alabama. You got Cam Ward, Miami. And this is in order. You got Travis Hunter, Colorado. You got Ashton Jeanty, Boise State. And you got Dylan Gabriel, Oregon.
Okay,
so that's your order.
Okay, so let me ask this question: of that
quarterback from Tennessee as well.
Of that class, who is the because you said best player, right?
I'm saying best player.
Okay. All right. So who is the actual best player in that group? And I'm going to make the case, if you're playing offense and defense as well on both sides of the ball
and playing full time.
Like you're not coming off the field. But that order right there is already wrong.
And that's what I think. I mean, because the thing is, like you just said, and I think the point you're saying is like you're playing well on both sides of the ball. You're not just like guy out there.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You're actually contributing. Now, I guess, again, the caveat and the sort of the argument to that would be, well, he's playing at Colorado. They're probably going to end up losing maybe 2 or 3 games. And you're playing versus a guy like, the quarterback from Alabama, who's playing at Alabama. You're going to play Georgia. You're going to play LSU. So you're playing the top level teams. Jalen Milroy's playing the top level team, and you're. I mean, for example, what he did to the game he had against Georgia last week, where he just dominant.
Okay, so now what you're saying? Okay,
I'm just saying.
I know. I'm not tagging you on it, but I'm just saying from what you stated. So not only do you now have to you have to be at a school that plays other schools who have a higher level of, quote, talent in order for you to even have a shot.
I mean, that's essentially what you're saying. And I think the other problem with that is that as a committee, number one, I don't like sports writers and players and all this stuff just having these random votes out there, right? Because you're not watching every single game. There needs to be a committee assigned to this where you're watching every game and you're actually seeing who is the best out there, because you're not, the person who watches the whole all SEC games. You may check out Travis Hunter 1 or 2 times in totality, because for me to get the highlights or for me to read the cliff notes, it's different for me to actually watch the game and have an analytical perspective of how they performed in different scenarios.
All right, so I'm going to probably say something that I probably shouldn't say.
All right.
All right. My issue with whether it be media or a closed group that you don't know who are making these decisions.
Okay.
My problem with that is okay, first of all, you can't judge if you didn't play. If you're an English major and you didn't play ball, how can you? How? Because all you got is what you see.
I mean, but that's all that counts, right? I mean, just because you weren't a ball player doesn't mean that you can't have a perspective and be very detailed. You
could be a great coach. You could be a great coach, and I'm not saying you can't be a good. You can't be a bad writer. You don't have to be a bad writer, but
you can be a good evaluator of talent and you can do that, even though you made it. Just made.
What do you? Okay, so if how do you judge Darryl Green and and Deion Sanders. How do you just like when you look at those two athletes? Both of them could do any and everything.
Yeah, but
how do you
I don't
judge
think
them?
you have to be a player. Like I don't have to be.
I didn't say a player.
Okay, I don't have to be a cornerback or a player to actually do that. I think that what you could do if you studied the position, if you really did your homework, you could do. I think you can form an analysis based off of whatever factors are available to you.
So okay,
I don't think you have to be a player.
Okay, so.
Although it helps that you are a player and you actually play the game.
Again, I'm not necessarily saying the player, but I'm saying I'll take coaches. I'll take anybody. So I'm saying you have to be in the game. I think that some whether it's coaches, whether it's owners,
you talking about like current coaches ought to be choosing it?
Yes,
but you don't have time to watch all of it. You know, as
you're
a coach,
you're gonna see film if they're in your division. If nothing else, if they're in your division.
But you don't have time to do all that.
So who's got time? Who's doing
I'm
that?
saying you form a committee.
Okay, but I'm just saying currently the system that we have now
is sports writers and players. It's a whole bunch of other
and who's watching everything? Who's watching all of it to make that decision?
Nobody.
Yes.
And I'm saying this is what it should be. I'm saying you take whatever conference or you take Power 5, Power 4, whatever it is. You take a number. You have a body that represents each conference, and y'all say y'all gonna watch these games and y'all gonna come up with week to week votes and decisions. You're gonna issue a report weekly about this. So every Monday we're giving you these are the top.
And you got to watch this much about this.
You got to watch this.
Yes.
We are assigned. You got to watch these games. You come together
because you're gonna get down to 5 to 10 players.
And I'm saying you do it for the top 25, and you just go ahead and filter that in through and do the Heisman and awards that way as well. Because to me, it's like if I'm just a sports writer and I work I'm working Big 12 and I'm in West Virginia, the majority of my time is going to be spent watching West Virginia and whoever West Virginia plays.
Right.
So you may, as a job, you may not ever watch Colorado just because that's your job is to cover the Big 12 and cover specifically West Virginia.
Right.
So it has to be somebody or a group of individuals, however it's represented, to take this task on.
Yeah, and
because I don't like where they're going.
I don't like where it is.
Yeah,
I'm going to phrase it this way. I don't think that it's unfair. Mm-hmm. I just think that it's unaware.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's trying to be unfair. I just think they're just unaware of, because again, when you think, when you start thinking about the top 10 college football teams in the country, how many of those players that are outside of that top 10 might be great players?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
That you're saying, well, okay, yeah, we're hearing about him, and we think he's good, but we're
and I think that's what they do. They just take the top 10, top 15 teams and say who's the best.
Because it's got to come from that team. It's got to come from Alabama.
Yeah, but it might not. There's a lot of times where even Alabama, and I love Derrick Henry. I think he's a great Hall of Fame running back even at the NFL level. But for that season, Christian McCaffrey was the best player in college football. He was receiving, he was punting, he was
how many times do we get to this time of the year and those selections happen and we're mad?
Yeah,
because we're like, what about this guy? And you know how it gets written off by, well, it's tough decisions. These guys are making really, really tough decisions. Then you need to do more.
You need to do more.
You can't just randomly just think just because this guy he's getting the most attention on TV. Well, if you're in Alabama and you're playing, and especially when you had Nick Saban walking on the sideline, bro, you're going to get some attention.
Yeah, you're going to get every game is covered.
Yes.
Notre Dame, every game is covered. So I just think you ought to have a committee. You know what I'm saying? It's specifically or the committee that you have now that does the playoff. They need to not only be doing the playoffs, they need to be doing the rankings, which I think they do, but also need to be doing the awards.
Because
you know what I'm saying?
I don't know how anybody. Okay, I don't know how anybody could watch Randy Moss and him not pick up every single possible award that could be offered to a college football player.
Well, I think they're looking at it. Well, they're playing MAC schools or they're playing these schools, so they're not necessarily honed in specifically on the talent itself. They're looking at, could he do this against Florida State or Notre Dame?
If I were on that, if I was trying to make that vote, and I am exactly who I am now, This would be my process. Okay. All right, let me think of how would I cover him? Okay, so I'm a bump and run guy. So my first problem is he's taller than me. He's faster than me. He can jump higher than me. And so and this is how I assess, who's the best wide receiver. I'm faster than Jerry Rice. Believe it or not, I'm faster than him. He don't scare me. He didn't scare me. Randy would scare me because you know what? Even if I could catch him, even if I was at his body, he's got 6 inches of jumping on me plus 4 inches height wise. So how do you cover that guy?
Yeah, but I again, that's maybe the way you would process it. But I think other people are not looking at it like so introspectively. They're looking at it from a standpoint of just okay, he's a great player, but he's playing against them. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the way they're.
So let me ask this question because I'm feeling a certain kind of way here. Okay, yeah. So is my way? You think my way is wrong or?
I don't think it's wrong because that's the way you're processing it. But I think you can't look at every position like that because you're not looking at an offensive lineman or defensive lineman position right like that, right? Because you didn't play those positions. You're not thinking about how would I guard him, how would I attack him. Now again, you may think from a coaching perspective, like, okay, we got this great defense, Adamakan Suh, when he was at, I think, Wisconsin or Nebraska. You may think, dang, how could I stop him? What could I do to neutralize him? So you may think at him from that perspective. Could we run this, or could we do this, or maybe we got a double, triple team? You see what I'm saying?
But I think at any point, at any position, coaching or whatever, I think the issue with somebody like Randy, which to me makes it so clear, is okay. Who could cover him?
Yeah, but again, but again, if I'm not a football player, if I'm not a coach, if I'm media, right? I'm not looking at it necessarily like that. I'm looking at it like, okay, the guys in the MAC can't cover him. This ain't me. I know better. But somebody else may look at it like, okay, the guys in the MAC can't cover him, but I wonder if the guys in the SEC could cover him, and he don't play them. So then, for that reason, that's a demerit. That's a knock. You see what I'm saying? The way they're processing it.
Yeah, I totally.
They're not processing it from like a player perspective. We're not processing it from a scheming perspective.
I totally
They're looking
agree.
at this versus that.
I totally agree.
Which don't really add up once you understand the scheming and just the man-on-man process. Because if you understand that process, you understand it. It doesn't matter if it was SEC. Heck, it didn't matter if it was NFL. No, right? It don't matter.
He made everybody.
He mossed, quote unquote, mossed everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. So don't matter.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I just those kinds of teams. I know as a kid, wanting to make all conference and all this and all that and all that. I can remember wanting to make all that. And then even getting into the pros, I was so excited after, making, going to the Pro Bowl, all that, blah, blah, blah. But on the other side of it, as time has gone on, and I sit and watch kind of like somebody I'm thinking like is really good, and I'm like what's going on? How's that not happening? Like, why is that person not getting this award? Why is this guy not getting the Heisman?
Yeah.
Why is he not getting that? And I know the amazing piece to me though, and I'm curious of what you say to this, and we're pretty much got to wrap it up here. But why is it that we don't know who does this voting?
I don't know, man. It's too spread out. It's like I said, I think we got to rein that back in. Again, it's just another part where the NCAA just fails. I think a lot of times they end up just getting it right because it's obvious. But for years like this, where it ain't so obvious who the best player is, where it's really kind of even like the Marshall Faulk, Gino Torretta year, right? Yeah. Gino Torretta was a good quarterback on one of the greatest team ever, but Marshall Faulk was the best player. So it's like stuff like this is, and before we wrap up, you went to Alaska. Tell us a little bit about that trip before you go.
All right, so it was the most amazing, and I'll probably try to post some pictures here because I've got a bunch of really cool pictures that we took. It was great, man. It was chilly. It was in the 40s and all that, but it was actually still comfortable had been in Minnesota before, it was still kind of comfortable.
Was it daytime there all night, or was it?
No, it was night and day.
Okay.
Long day. It was a pretty much long day. But man, just to have opportunities to walk on some of these like mountains and up and down, and seeing the beautiful scenery, it was. And I'd always wanted to go, and I just never thought I would never thought to buy a ticket and go.
Yeah.
But in this situation, I got an opportunity to go with a bunch of guys, John Randall, Henry Thomas, Tommy Kramer, and Buddy Becker, and he put the event on for us, and it was great. And we just got a chance we went downtown Anchorage. It just looks like a regular town, like anybody, like anywhere else you'd go. But man, when you got on the outer side of it, it was just absolutely gorgeous, man.
Yeah.
And
I would Minnesota Viking fans, right?
Oh gosh, we had a lot of Viking fans, and just a few that wore their jerseys to some of the events that we went to, where they wore Packer stuff, and one of them was a Sterling Sharp fan too. Okay. so we had a few confrontations about that kind of stuff, but man, it was great. And if you're one of those people who would like to go or want to go, man. Go. You will absolutely enjoy it. I promise you that.
Nice.
All right, well, let me give one more shout out to Frank Walker, who is our sponsor. Frankie Walker Law, real talk, real experience, real results. For more information, you can go to frankwalker.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get out of here, and we will be back next week.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. frankwalkerlaw.com. Comment on episodes, ask Carl and Hollis questions, or suggest topics at our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation.
If you fall, dust it off and get back up on your feet. Anything could be a win, yup, even defeat. They say sugar bad for you, why is victory sweet? Couldn't play with big kids, I had to sit in the street and watch from a distance, but over time I grew. If I put in the work, in no time I'm due. Everything that I worked and prayed, I'm okay. If you ask me, how did I do it, I'm gon' say, you gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work. 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 You gotta work.